used to be.
Tough times economically for the church in the last 20 years, or?
Yeah, I think so, because I think that, one way of looking at it is probably that since the 1980s, probably there's been a growing perception on the part of some people that there's reason to be skeptical about the legitimacy of the church. I think that's probably meant less money flowing in, where 30 years ago there just would have been a kind of automatic, flow from tithe. I think as people have become suspicious of the church, or at least skeptical about what they perceive as exaggerated claims, the tendency has probably been for that to dry up. Plus, of course, I think in North America, as elsewhere in the world, the growth of membership among members of an apocalyptic sect is often among people at the economic margins who are not able to contribute as much, and by contrast, the folks who have done well economically are often those who are hitting out the other side of the revolving door.
How many Adventists worldwide? 20 million? 14?
I doubt there are 20. I don't. There could be close to 20, but
It used to double every 20 years. The church.
Yeah, and I think there's still tremendous growth in Latin America and in Africa, and certainly the numbers are increasing quite dramatically. But I think
let's keep walking.
Yeah, the numbers are declining in Europe, and they're pretty much stable in North America. And I think the reason they're stable in North America is because there is enough of a population that there are people who are remaining in the community because of their their family and other roots there, and then there are of course lots of new additions, I think particularly among Hispanics.
Remember the Tutsis versus Hutus in Rwanda?
Yeah.
I read a book about that, and I was shocked to see that among leading members of the side that was doing slaughtering were Seventh-day Adventist pastor, but did that get much talk in the...
It certainly got discussed in the Adventist Independent Press. I don't know that how much attention it got in the kind of official church press, but absolutely in the Independent Press it was...
Bit of a shocker, Adventist pastor being right in the center of a genocide.
No, absolutely.
It's like, whoa!
And of course, I don't know whether when the book was that you was it the Gurevich book?
Yes.
I think it was probably after that guy, ended up standing trial over here under, I'm not sure what, some international human rights statute that we incorporated into national law. He stood trial in Texas, I think, along with his son, and I don't know what finally became of that trial.
Yeah, it's like even Adventism can't completely remake the bloodthirsty, tribal genocidal urge.
No, and I guess it's
nothing is foolproof from these very primitive genocidal urges.
Yeah, and kind of what the role of religion was in all of that, I don't think I understand that story well enough to know, whether there's any way in which Adventism contributed to that.
Adventism generally has a negative view on genocide, right?
Yeah, it's not a
pro-genocide.
Right. It's I think as social practices go, genocide's probably one of the ones that tends to be frowned on.
Yes. No, it's not quite up there with smoking, but...
Right. Understand.
Understand, yes.
We have to have our priorities.
Yes.
It is certainly the case that Adventism has often had... it's had two kinds of political histories, it seems to me. It's had a history, sometimes, in places like Peru, of being associated with fairly aggressive agitation for social change in quite a positive direction, because there the idea was, of course, that a Catholic majority tended to particularly Catholic elite tended to want to shut down Protestant interlopers, and so the Protestant missioners ended up supporting efforts on behalf of Peruvian Highland Indians for increased participation in societal life, and really contributed in a way that's been lauded by a lot of folks outside the Adventist community. On the other hand, there are a number of other environments in which Adventism has fairly embarrassingly allied itself with some unpleasant people who have, whether it's just that they had Adventist doctors they liked, or whether they wanted to create a counterweight to the Catholic Church, or whatever else. In places like the Dominican Republic, Rafael Trujillo, I think, had a kind of chummy relationship with some Adventists, and Ferdinand Marcos and so forth. I mean, not some of the finest people in the world's political history. So,
what's this?
Angwin Hall.
Angwin Hall.
This is a women's dormitory, and I'm not sure that this story is accurate, but the story in any event is that it is called Angwin Hall because at a point when the boards were Lossier and Loma Linda were largely identical, as they still are to great an extent, I think. There was some kind of there were political shenanigans of some kind that allowed money to be snagged from PUC to be brought here, and I think this was somebody's idea of a joke to call it Angwin Hall in honor of that. So we can build a dorm with this 10,000 that we sneaked away from PUC. And, that may be false, but that's the story at any rate. This is also a dormitory. This is Gladwin Hall, which
that's familiar.
Which is
that name.
Now a dorm for graduate students.
Now, when does the school year begin?
2 weeks.
2 weeks. Okay.
How you doing? Good to see you.
That's all right.
Keep well. Awesome. Students from all over the world.
So 90% are American, or?
No, I would think. When I was a student, 90% weren't American. I would guess 75% were, with the remaining 25% from all over. I would guess that number is probably higher now.
So I see some people on message boards related to my dad's talk calling Adventism a third world religion. That's because the growth in numbers is now from the third world.
Absolutely. Yeah, I mean, it's, as I say, it's stable here, declining in Europe, and ballooning in the third world. That's what they do. This way. The Visual Arts Center that I showed you earlier opened in the fall of 1984 when I was a student, and there was very little new construction, just the addition of a 3,000 square feet or so to the School of Education building over the course of the next 2 decades. And then finally, after it's having been promised for 30 years or so, we got a new science building. And that's obviously been important because so many students here are headed toward work in the health professions. And so science matters a lot. So while the old science building is still home to the chemistry department, the new science building houses biology and mathematics, and it's right in front of us, and it's a very attractive space.
What's the smog like out here? Is it better or worse?
When it's hot, it's pretty bad.
Yeah.
Because we're in a valley,
Yeah.
so it collects.
The mountains.
Yeah. I don't. Quite sure we're not going to be able to get in there, which is too bad because it is really a lovely building. I mean, it's very attractive.
Have you ever